Hello all, we are here for one more lesson of this AutoCAD 2016 training course. And the topic for today will be boundary edge options. As we've seen previously, with the edge command we can create patterns in closed areas, but there are a couple of options that are needed to look a little more in detail. So I've created these two very simple drawings to show you what we can do with these boundaries. So I go to the command draw group edge, then I get this set of commands in the ribbon, and I need to open the dialog box that has all the configurations. I can reach that dialog box in two different ways, either choosing the settings here or going in this little arrow here, and we will get the same dialog box. The standard way as the dialog box is presented to the user is like this, and you can expand it clicking in this arrow, and you'll get a couple more options. So most of these we've seen already in one of our previous lessons, and what I want to show you it is first, regarding the boundaries, we can either pick an internal point of the boundary or select objects. And I'm saying this because in these two different cases I have, in this situation here, a closed boundary where it is easy to understand what are the objects that will enclose the edge pattern. But in this particular case, you see that the objects are not cut until the end of what will be the limit for the pattern. So we can choose either of these methods to select the area, and the user must see what is better to either of the situations. And besides that option, we have also a couple of possibilities to recognize the islands. So I think this is quite easy to understand what are the options. The first one, it is the possibility to recognize internal islands, or just to choose one internal boundary, or to ignore all of them and just check the outer boundary. Let us use this one, the normal. And besides, there are other two important things, which is regarding the boundaries. We can retain the boundaries or not, and if we retain the boundaries, we have the possibility to create a polyline or a region, and these are concepts that we are going to see in the later lessons of this training course. But the idea, it is especially for this kind of situation where the boundary is not defined because the entities do not stop on the intersection points. So we can create a new entity, being a polyline or a region, which defines perfectly the area that encloses the pattern. So I will create a polyline, and I have one more interesting option here, which is the gap tolerance. And the gap, it is something that will makes possible to have, instead of having a perfectly closed boundary, to have a boundary with gaps. And here we define what is the amount in the gap tolerance that makes AutoCAD recognize it as a closed boundary to apply the hatch. So with all this done, I will say pick points, and here you see I create this, and you see it is blue, the boundary that it is recognized. So I will say just confirm, it is done. I will delete the hatch, and now you see it created a new entity on top of the lines that already exist. This is one possibility. The other possibility, it is regarding the islands. Okay, like this one. Just say okay. I click here and it does not recognize the inside, but if I do let's take the retained boundaries here. If I click okay in here, you see that it recognizes what are internal islands. I have other possibilities when I'm in this stage where I still did not confirm. I can take, for example, remove boundaries, and I can say take this one out, okay? Or the opposite, add objects, and in this particular case I'm defining okay object by object. So this is interactive, so I can move forward, move back, quite easy. There are a couple of other options in this dialog box. I will not explain them now, especially regarding the origins and the viewports. I will leave these explanations to later lessons where we have already seen these viewports and these other options. So regarding the behavior of the hatch boundaries, I hope these examples were clear enough for your use.